Ah, my friend, you have deserted the seas for the comforts land has to offer. Welcome home. Aye, it was time. If not for the passing, my torch would be extinguished. Can you truly give up what she offers? Her countless mysteries, her beauty, her treachery, all found in the journey, which is most precious of all. Aye, my heart fractures. A new generation must conquer the unknown in my stead. I'm glad you made it, my friend. But I must ask, where did you send those young men? Currents beyond memory. We've tread them before. Like many things once essential, they have been lost. Surely you haven't sent them into uncharted waters. Safety is readily available in the mainstream. Many ships and a sure passage. Nay. Untold scores of brave men created the path. Us amongst them. Where once innovation and creativity, where now stands idle bootlickers and hapless cowards. So nay, I did not send them to the mainstream. I've simply given them a heading. They may fail. Aye, they may. 'Tis the risk of great men. But a new age is here. In its course will be set upon the iron seas of fate. And to these brave men and women I say, Godspeed, and hail the Iron Age!
Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Iron Seas. Tonight we got a special panel because our other co-hosts, our co-captains, are currently sailing the Iron Seas, as it were, in real life. So let's get at it. We got Evelay Music,
Yarg.
MD Boncher, and Mr. BP McCoppin.
Hell.
How you guys doing?
Howdy diddly, Paradorinos.
Son of a bitch.
All right, guys. So tonight, as the title goes, we got Zack Snyder. We got sci-fi.
That's correct. He is a dog. Reaction
Dog says.
Yeah.
We got sci-fi stuff that we're going to talk about, and of course storytelling as always. So we'll get right at it. Are you guys familiar with Snyder?
Familiar enough. I've seen a thing or two.
I barely even know her.
Been exposed for sure.
Yeah, exposed is a good word.
He's kind of gotten his way into the cultural zeitgeist, as it were. Definitely.
Yeah.
I guess my first encounter with him as a kid with the movie 300 is the predominant example. I know he made movies before that for sure, but yeah, that was when I for sure knew like the name, I guess.
Well, 300 worked because he wasn't the writer. He just did a shot-for-shot adaptation of a comic that was already very, very popular and well received.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I actually thought that was his first movie. What did he do before that?
I think he made
Dawn of the Dead was the first thing I've ever seen him do. And that was good. That was good.
Yes,
and once again, it was a case of he wasn't in control of the script.
Yeah.
Pretty faithful too.
Actually. George Romero approved. I will say that movie still has one of my favorite final lines of a character ever, and it's not something I can repeat on here, but the security guard that's about to get munched on by the zombies and just sums up the sentiment just perfectly after wanting to be the big hero.
Hey, stop eating me. Is that the line?
No. He called his own death. No. The closest I'll say is
was it self-sacrifice then?
Yeah, he went down heroically with the phrase "effing figures."
Yeah.
And blow up a lot of zombies.
You want fries with that?
Yeah, he was fries with that.
I should watch that movie again. It's been a while. Dawn of the Dead is classic. Shout outs to that. I'm actually, I sent McCoppin actually reminded me. I'm going to pull up a little treat that I have for the audience while we're doing this. I'll just get it ready. He said he made a shot-for-shot remake. I have that thing that was based off. I have it, fellas. I have it. It's here.
He did.
Zombie 2.
He did basically what Robert Rodriguez pioneered with Sin City a couple years before that, and since he basically cribbed from the same author, Frank Miller, it was all right there.
Yeah. Frank Miller's, as far as I know, I haven't heard anything but too bad about him. And if anything I've heard, I don't remember it. So that's
He's just totally insane.
He has gone a bit more. It's sort of like somebody. It's like when he moved out of New York and went to Los Angeles, he kind of lost his mind. So maybe if he moves back to New York, he'll regain his sanity.
Wow,
I'm not sure.
That really would say something about your sanity level.
Yeah.
Well, think about what he was putting out before that too. I mean, Frank Miller was cranking out some of the best runs on comics out there with Daredevil. And honestly, I don't care so much about his Batman stuff because I just wasn't as into his take on it. But his Daredevil was pitch perfect. He did some other things here and there, except for Batman Year One, with my one caveat of what they did with Selina Kyle. And it was still done by one of my favorite artists, David Mazzucchelli. So you give the points there. Otherwise, once he got to LA, he kind of wandered off into woo land and
woo land, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I believe that was Clinton. That was clearing the chakras
Man.
there.
Yeah.
Different woo-woo land, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mad
I think it's always been there, right? We were talking about Snyder, right, a little bit beforehand, just to kind of get the discussion going. And one of the things we brought up, I think Evely brought this up in the conversation, his wife cheating. Like, did she have to cheat? And it's like, in the source material, which I have over
300.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, huh.
In 300.
Yeah, and we're talking about 300, by the way. Yeah, for those listening.
yeah, the added subplot of her trying to convince the Senate to help the invasion.
Right.
That was all
right.
Snyder. He added that because that wasn't in the original comic.
That was, and I still stand by. They're like, all right, we all of our best soldiers need to leave our town defenseless to go fight. Like, you didn't leave a few guys behind just to keep watch. They all bailed. It's like, all right.
Right. So, like, as you can see here, they literally even just it's the exact helmet, you know. Which, when you have when you're gonna do a faithful adaptation of something that is taking some faithful aspects of history, you're gonna get some stuff right, you know, because the helmets are pretty close. They're not perfect, you know. A lot of them had the plumes, and the plumes a lot were like sideways actually, so they weren't even the cool mohawk plumes a lot of the time.
Is the kind of thing if you got hit with a spear, it'd spin around like one of them dumb guy has?
Marvel track
Like in a labyrinth.
Yeah, exactly.
What was? Do we know what the function of those mohawk deals were? Like, was it just to try and scare their enemy? Like, it looks like an exotic bird.
Who the captains were, and stuff like that.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like not everybody would have it. So like those things, you know, I could be wrong on this, but those like cartoons and stuff that you see where like every single soldier, like I think Trojans are usually depicted this way. But like, yeah, every single soldier has a plume. That doesn't make sense unless the captains have a different kind of plume. Then I guess that's just your helmet, in a way. But it seems like a lot to do for that. I guess. I mean, it could work, but
These are some handsome fellows.
oh, I know. strong jawed men, climbing mountains and shit, you know, just getting it done. You know?
Throwing the weak newborns into a pit.
They got the wolf and everything, you know. So my whole point, just having this up as eye candy while we discuss it, is, and I'm gonna check the comments here while we're going. He used to be pretty respectful. I'm not saying this isn't too relevant as pertains to like the current movies he's putting out with Rebel Moon.
Rebel.
Not in a hat towards Nerdbrother for coining that.
Yeah, he put out a good review, man.
Always.
You know, he put out a good review, but yeah, I checked out several from different sources before the show, and like even people who are really trying to steel man Rebel Moon, still have to be like, you know, and at some point it comes out like, I want to watch a good movie, you know, like it comes out that you're
This
saying
is like
it's not
a little aside, kind of. So I don't mean to go off into a tangent right away, but do you feel that's better to watch the reviews before you get into it because your time's limited? You want to have an idea if something's good, or do you think it's better just to go into not right away? But is it
works for me? It works for me.
I think it's a new thing for me. I used to just go into it not caring, but I've gotten to so many movies now where I just feel offended at times. You know, I walk in, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. This is garbage. You know, it used to be, you know, like picking on known entities. Disney. I could walk into a Disney movie and knew it's family safe day one. Now I got to pre-screen it before I let my kids watch it. So it's that way for a lot of media now.
I don't watch a movie without watching its spoilers first.
Oh,
sorry,
man.
I don't trust you. No, I don't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to sit the right way on a toilet at this point. I mean, they are absolutely god awful and sneaking and stuff. I mean, I'm a fan of Ghostbusters. So when I went to see Frozen Empire, I still went and saw all the spoilers to it because I'm not going to have them, you know, sneak something in the back door on me and just make my life miserable or make me want to walk out of the theater. And there were rumors of something in that movie that I'm watching for it, and I disagree with part of how they took the whole Phoebe thing in that movie, for instance. But it doesn't matter. I don't trust even the franchises I love anymore.
Yeah,
the few that I have left.
It sort of sucks because I like going into movies knowing as little about them as possible. Yeah. And to your points, you can't anymore. You got to look it up to make sure it's not going to be a mess. But I was just curious if everybody deep dives into reviews and what the rationale.
Oh yeah,
was. You've gotten burned too much. Like
my wife Bambo digs into all sorts of review sites and digs into them and finds out everything about them. Like tomorrow night, we're going to go watch. For our anniversary, we're going to watch the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, knowing full well what we're getting into. Just
happy anniversary to you.
Yeah, our 3rd anniversary.
Nice, congrats.
Thank you. So yeah, and Snyder. Unfortunately, I learned my lesson when I watched Sucker Punch, which was as advertised, did what it said on the tin.
I feel like that movie is kind of a representation of a lot of Snyder's work, at least to me. There's a lot of cool visuals. There's a good story somewhere in there and something that would be awesome. And then there's just story beats or character things that's just like, why did they do that? Why did they? And it just it falls apart.
I think this summarizes it.
Look, here's the thing.
Fine. Listen,
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Yeah, that basically summarizes it.
I feel like he just can't write. Like he has an idea that might be a great idea, but he can't get from A to B. He has all this meandering. He has side quest. He has everything in between. And when he writes the movie, it just feels an effort to get through it at times.
Yeah, dude. When he has something to follow, like I'm kind of getting blown away again in some ways, looking through this again, just kind of offhandedly while we go along here. Like, look at this. That is Gerard Butler right there, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So when he has it's almost like when he has a boss, it almost works very well and it succeeds.
Well, I just what you said there a little bit ago, it made me think. I think he basically shoots his rough draft. I think he doesn't even finish the script. I think he just shoots the rough draft and trusts everything in edit and post. I think that's what he does. At least that's the way his stories feel.
It feels like he's got, I want to do this scene because it looks cool and this scene because it looks cool, but I don't care how we get between the two. So sometimes we get from cool scene to cool scene.
Right.
It's underpants gnomes planning. Step 2, a miracle occurs. Step 3, profit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is something we were discussing about him too, was that is it better for him to do his own thing or to have it be kind of influenced by committee? And I don't know if we're all in agreement on this, but I'm leaning that way because
he has this famous quote. I'm kind of scrolling through this right now. But I did find a short clip earlier of him saying that infamous line of because he was going through on he said something on Rogan, on his podcast with Rogan, and then he said something in another past interview about committees. But what the term that he most recently used was focus groups, because he used the Fauci line, basically, if you're not with me, you're against. If you're against me, in a sense, or if you're not with me, you're with even worse people, kind of thing. I am the science, kind of thing. So he's like, if you say no to me, you're saying yes to focus groups.
It's not a binary situation.
Right, Snyder. Exactly. Mr.
Don't call me Snyder.
And I wasn't.
That's the new insult. Yeah.
I would never insult you like that.
You Snyder. Not.
Oh my god!
I hope that made sense to somebody.
Nope.
I'm
fine with it being nope.
Gotcha.
I will admit the last Snyder movie I ever saw was Watchmen, and I have to admit that I thought that was actually quite good. But I qualify this saying I am not a fan of the graphic novel. I think it looks ugly, and I think that Alan Moore kind of meanders all over the place, spouting bile all over conservatism.
Oh,
Yeah, there is a little bit of an agenda there, isn't there? It seems like
There
in
was,
some-
but he did it so poorly, it became like a conservative calling card with Rorschach. The libertarians love that guy to death.
Oh, Rush.
I don't blame him. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that it was amazing that Zack Snyder made that work as well as
Well,
it did.
He's not a good guy, though. I will say that he's not a good guy to like emulate, but he's got the cool factor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that goes down to that actor too. I can't remember his name, the redheaded guy, but he crushed that role.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I am so blanking on his name too. I'll have it in a second. Jackie Earl Haley.
That's it.
Yep.
Yep. He did a great job. I wish I could say it was memory. It's a IMDb. I just happened to have it called up because I pulled up his filmography.
Oh, no. You got to play it off like, man, I had to pull that out of nowhere.
Nah, I'm not going to go full cat. I meant to fall off the stairs that way. I have 4 of my own cats. I don't need to try to think of any more bad habits from them.
One of the cool things we were talking about this week is the origin of the term space opera, because we were just like tossing it around like, oh, hey, what's your guys' favorite space opera, you know? And
I
and
never
then all of a sudden, yeah, you never heard it before?
No, never.
Oh, geez.
You've never
I heard it all the
space
time.
opera.
It's almost like the main term.
I knew soap opera and I knew standard opera. I'm like, one's a TV show my grandma loves, and one is like Italian people yelling about things for 4 hours. Wearing like the Viking horns. That was it. I'm like, space opera? I was like, they don't sing in is there sci-fi movies where people like sing? It's like, am I out of touch? I think we're starting to establish normie taste is like here, and I'm like working my way up to that because I'm so like just out of it.
God help you. To be below normie average, that's and I thought it was bad just by I thought it was bad for me to by just eschewing normie average at this point and starting to spurn a good chunk of nerd average at this point.
AC, is this a Spanish version of the comic?
Is what?
It's not English. What language is this?
I don't know what language it is, but I was just like, man, this is a part of my childhood, and I've owned 2 versions of this physical in real life, and I don't know where they went. So I was like, I need a PDF of this. So I went and got a PDF of it, and this is the condition it was in, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
It's half in Spanish because the Los the Immortals, yeah.
Yeah.
I can do it.
That means those immortals, pretty sure.
Yep.
Los
I basically know enough
Immortals.
French to suss the out of the Spanish.
You bet your sweet Bippy I did.
You got to get the real deal when it comes to You Bet Your Sweet Bippy. It's got to be Dick Rowan up there, man.
You betcha, sweet Bippy.
This is actually kind of sweet in Spanish. This is like totally changing the way my brain.
It gets even more small. And I also have to say, as cool as some of the art is, I'm sitting here looking at it, remembering the old Daredevils that I own in these boxes that are right down here.
Yeah.
The old Daredevils with Frank Miller art, and go, wow, had he deteriorated.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in there, but I sit there and it's like looking at somebody after they've had a stroke and half their face got Bell's palsy. I mean, some of these are just, man, you're killing me, Frank.
Yeah, I think he was trying to go for a very distinct style, and I think he did it quickly too.
Achievement unlocked.
Yes.
He did it. Lynn Varney's colorings, though, are just through the roof. Good.
Yeah,
that's.
I like this. This is like an anger panel, but instead of anger, it's like what's the term? Dread. It's like a dread panel. This one in the center here with the deformed guy, because like usually an anger panel, like if you just made this all red and you had the scene depict basically like him having like an angry reaction to something, like, you know, he just witnessed something horrific, and then the next scene, the next panel is just all red and stylized, and he's like unraveling, you know. Those are cool. He did that basically with this scene here, but it's like a dread panel or like a lust panel or something. It's crazy. He does that sometimes, so like I don't know, you can tell he's got an understanding of the rules, but like, yeah, this is very vectored, if I do say so myself, like right here.
one of the best things he does is the use of blacks, like Alex Toth. The use of flat black as a way to control negative space is absolutely gorgeous. Frank Miller still is a master of the silhouette. I will give him that. I don't think I've seen another artist out there that comes close to how well he handles that and still seems to maintain this level of three-dimensionality. Yeah, that's the word for.
See.
But then I'm sitting there looking at some of this stuff now, and I'm going, man, this reminds me of stuff I would expect in a Tolkien novel from some artist that, was good back in the day, but nowadays you look at it and kind of go, advanced a long way. But
and then the flashback. Oh, sorry. I get excited. It's like my childhood. My bad.
It's interesting actually how muted the palette is in this book versus the movie. Everything's gold and the red is in your face, and here it's more washed out and stuff.
And dirty. It's dirty.
I've never seen this before, so yeah, it's dirty.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
I think
Spartanos.
Oh yeah. I think King Richard makes a good point over there. Space opera is essentially a melodramatic relationship-driven sci-fi tale with a grand scope. Yeah, that's it. But Emily, I was going to say, so you've never heard of space opera, and you probably never even heard of horse opera then.
Horse?
Yes. Yeah, dude, that was the old term for westerns.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. Back in the day,
ain't singing in them either, though.
Opera is it's more than just singing. It's more than just singing.
It's a big story.
Just remember, operas have to be based on a story. Operas are based on a story. They just use song and classical music in which to tell it on the stage. It's the predecessor to Broadway, essentially.
Yeah.
Actually, Broadway came from the lowbrow version that wasn't quite opera. It was all more of the bawdy houses and things like that.
There's got to be another musical genre that we can co-opt and do a whole subgenre of.
Horse dubstep. What? No.
There you go. Yeah, now we're on to something. I'd watch that.
Oh, I'm going to hell for creating that phrase.
Just call it horse dub. That sounds even better.
Horse dub.
Yeah. I don't know what happened in the horse dub movie, but sign me up. I'd watch. I'd give it a shot.
I don't, okay, so the point you asked earlier about what the favorite space opera is, you know what? I've gotten to the point of where so many things have blended together for me, I couldn't pick out a space opera to save my soul at this point. I mean, other than, basically you're left, nowadays when people say space opera, what's the first thing everybody kind of goes to, I think, is probably Star Wars. Yeah. After that, it's Star Wars knockoffs. Otherwise, what other... Let's grab best space operas.
That's not Star Wars.
Well, it'll be in the list. Give me a list longer than 10, please. So, best 100 space opera books. Let's start with that. Good God, I haven't even heard of these.
AC, do you remember we were talking about space opera?
Dune is not a space opera.
Which one?
Somebody claims Dune is a space opera in this list.
By modern homogenized standards, it's considered a space opera because we'll get into that. We'll get into the origin. Evely, if you want to pull up that definition, if you want to pull that up,
sir, you had it on hand, so we don't have to dig for it.
I was digging through gritty Miller art, so my hands are dirty.
Yeah, I gotta go wash them off.
Yeah, Farscape. Shout outs. I see that on
space opera on TV tropes. You ever hear of...
Sorry, go. You go.
Oh,
sorry.
I was going to say, you ever hear of tvtropes.org?
No.
You want to ever find out any trope possible in the funniest way possible, go to tvtropes.org. They list everything because it's a bunch of nerds just Wikipediaing all tropes possible. Gotcha. Let's see. So, here's the entry. Here, I'll give you the link in the chat so other people can
that'll be in the
follow along.
And I got the Wikipedia on space opera ready to go.
Awesome. It said Farscape. I guess TV shows count too. Then I mean, why not? Battlestar Galactica.
Space opera is a genre, not a medium.
Star Trek. By the definition that we discovered, Star Trek is probably the best example, honestly, because it's essentially it's what Evely thought it was, never hearing the term before. It's a soap opera in space. That's all it is. I thought it meant like
Yes.
epic fantasy or something
Yeah.
in space. Or something.
So soap opera or space. Not we'll get to soap opera too because I didn't know why they were called that either. Space opera, coined in 1941 by fan writer and author Wilson Tucker as a pejorative term in an article
Not wrong.
Les Zombies. It might be Les Zombies. I'm not sure here. It's a science fiction fanzine, as we all already know, I'm sure. At the time, serial radio dramas in the United States had become popularly known as soap operas because many were sponsored by soap manufacturers.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And now you know. Do you have a little thing for that? It could be
So
like
we'll-
Matt's face on the star or something.
We'll put a quick pin in that, but the takeaway is it was a pejorative term. Boncher, what were you going to say before that?
Oh, I was just going to say I have actually a list. A list described by Brian Aldiss contains the ideal space opera contains most, if not all, of the following criterion.
Oh,
Number
interesting.
1, the world must be in peril. Number 2, there must be a quest. 3, and a man or woman to meet the mighty hour. So you have to have a hero and or heroine or both to meet the mighty hour. 4, that a man or woman must confront aliens and or exotic creatures. 5, space must flow past the ports like wine from a pitcher. In other words, lots of travel. That's why I say Dune is not a space opera. Blood must rain down the palace steps. 7, yes, and ships launch out into the lowering dark. Okay, I'm reading these out here. Number 8, there must be a woman or man fairer than the skies.
Oh,
And
That's kind of gay.
yeah, well, they also have to have a villain darker than a black hole. And 10, all must come right in the end.
Almost what in the end?
That all must come right in the end.
Yes.
This
I
sounds
love it.
awesome.
to
I need to
Brian
watch these. This sounds
I know.
amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and the fun part is about TV tropes is that when you read over the trope in particular, in this case, space opera, it's like 3 pages worth of details on it. Then it comes down to the list, and they list all examples that are currently known among the knowledge base. From anime and manga, comic books, comic strips, fan works, film and animation, films, live action, game books, literature, live action TV, music, tabletop games, video games, web comics, web originals, and Western animation. They're all part listed.
So, MD, based on that list, how does Dune not fit as a space opera?
Number 5, space must flow past the ports like wine from a pitcher. It's more of a planetary romance. In other words, you're
Paladin to Arrakis via the guild. That doesn't count.
okay. So they basically and we're traveling to Arrakis and we're there. It is practically the Hot Fuzz car chase, which has the record for the shortest car chase in cinema.
I understand what you're saying, and I can actually sympathize with you because what you're saying is it implies the juicy spaceship stuff without actually going there and showing us
Exactly.
the juicy space.
Exactly. You never see the Navigators Guild really getting down to brass tacks. You never see any space fight. You see some atmospheric stuff, but that's about as exciting as drop ships landing in Battletech. I mean, nobody talks about that part of playing Battletech. That's a given that, yes, you get your mechs to the ground and now stompy robot blood and guts action. With that,
Now, are the rules for space opera, though, is it sort of like playing beer pong in college where each place has different rules that slightly vary even though they're all kind of in line? Are these like laws of space opera, or is it?
I don't think it's laws, personally.
Okay. So they could have.
At best, you could call them
Guidelines.
Okay.
It's like what you said, planetary romance. You're right. It is a planetary romance. But I personally think a planetary romance kind of sounds like a space opera. You know what I mean? So you can just keep with subgenres.
So basically, Dune would fit in the broadest sense of space opera because you also don't really have a woman or man fairer than the skies. You don't have that.
Chani?
Sorry,
no.
Chani?
Paul Atreides. He is
Chani?
Paul Atreides is.
and
You
his girlfriend.
mean?
I don't mean the adaptation of the movie that just came out this year. I mean the actual novel itself.
Yes, yes.
It's been
Chani-
many years since I watched it.
They have what is it called? They have eugenicist selective breeding over like millennia to get.
Yeah,
So-
that's true.
so-
the Bene Gesserit going at it there.
In theory, Paul
Don't compare
Atreides,
Book 5.
right?
Okay, all right. So I will put it on the doing at the outskirts of space opera, but it is more solid.
Okay. And I do just have to add that blood most definitely runs down the palace steps.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
Yes. It most definitely does. I love that line, by the way. I was like, oh, that sold me. I was like, I gotta watch space operas, man. That's sick.
Oh yeah.
But what if the gravity's bad? Would it go up the palace steps?
Yes, it would go.
Then
up.
it's Star Trek 6.
Yeah, purple blood goes up, or
Floating in globules in the air until the gravity comes back.
There has to be globules of blood in the air floating around. I guess not air, whatever.
Like lava lamp, but blood.
Yeah.
So with the space opera theme, the reason it just seems like sci-fi is just in the air lately. I don't know if it's like sci-fi month or like what the deal is, but like with the release of Fallout and like Rebel Moon and stuff, I just kind of feel like everybody's just kind of in a very sci-fi
Rebel Moon
mood.
is definitely a space opera. I don't
Yeah,
know about
it's trying to be.
Fallout. I don't know about Fallout. Fallout, I don't know.
It's sci-fi. Fallout sci-fi.
Yeah, it's sci-fi. Fallout feels more like 1950s Mad Max in certain ways. I have never played the game. I have never watched the show. I've never read any of the books. I'm just going off of the ads.
Well, you're right. You're right. You're right.
And I'm not saying that to denigrate it though either. I mean,
no, it's a compliment. Yeah. And I think I actually talked about this in my my review I did live, and in I think the debate I had with Battsauce about the Fallout show. They should. Mad Max is one of their biggest influences, and I think they should. Whenever there's a question of in-world logic in Fallout, they can probably most definitely always divert to what would Mad Max do, and the answer is almost always they would eat them. So just you could just do that, and you're good.
With the Beaver ended up in Mad Max. Like that cast was forced into Mad Max. That's Fallout in a nutshell. It starts out in the 50s.
Yeah.
Nukes hit, and all of a sudden it's 2,000 years later or 200 years later, and all hell's broken loose.
Yeah. Literally, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the hell that's broken loose on the New World wasteland, surface world, is caused by, us, because, essentially it's all just, there's reasons, but like, super mutants don't just kind of come out of nowhere. It's not like, it's funny though, because they do the old timey, like, I don't know if this is in Flash Gordon or anything, but I will say the old timey space opera thing, the space fantasy sci-fi thing, where they have super mutants and they have mutated crazy bugs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Which is, that's something I love about the genre.
There are aliens too.
There is, and it's canon. Yeah, there's real aliens. Yeah, gray aliens.
I'm gonna say C.A. Peters. From my outsider opinion, Fallout is atom punk more than diesel punk because atom bombs.
Yeah,
that pretty much is that puts it right there. And also, it's the 1950s aesthetic, not the 1930s 40s aesthetic, which is more popular and more true to diesel punk.
Yeah, Fallout's kind of like if they figured out how to make nuclear power work on like a wristwatch somehow, and then that's the world that got created.
Yeah, and Herman P. Hunter, WW, MMD. What would Mad Max do? Yeah, basically, if they just did that.
Eat a can of dog food and shoot everybody in sight.
Yeah, more of that. More dog food.
Sounds like MD's done this some weekend.
But with Snyder, back to him really quick. We'll put a pin in space opera and come back to that. With Snyder, because he's trying to do a space opera, so it kind of ties together here. And he, it's universally kind of being rejected at the moment.
Well, the concept's pretty dumb. It's a dumb concept. Like, you have this all-powerful, his empire, because he's trying to rip off Star Wars, basically. His Star Wars needs food from the poor farmers. Like, you got space travel, you've got immortality, you've got regeneration. You can't genetically make your own crops. I guess the whole plot.
Yeah.
Exactly. It fails the rules of logistics, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you know what?
So go on. I want to listen.
Oh, there was a friend of mine who was in the military pointed out to me. He said, "Amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics," and that's exactly what it is. He's focusing on the little fights and not really paying attention. It's one of the things that caused me to start writing my Dream Nebula series is, all right, so how do these big evil empires hold themselves together? Start thinking of logistics. And since I am a certified logistics expert, And I understand what makes the trucks run. I understand what the ports do. And so I at least started including that and started thinking about the small people in a science fiction setting. Zack Snyder doesn't do that. He falls into the same and actually I shouldn't limit it just to Zack Snyder. He doesn't deserve to get punched in the face on this one alone. There's a lot of people do, because they just forget the fact that empires don't exist without the grunts in the background that are doing the cooking, the cleaning, the hauling of stuff, fixing everything. And honestly, it's one of the few things that I could have credited watching Star Trek Lower Decks, except I don't pay for streaming. And so I never saw it. Okay, that was something that I thought was really cool. All right, you're getting to look at the lower levels and stuff, but then they went off and did their own wacky adventures from the clips I've seen of it all. But that was the point that I kind of liked to. I wanted to see that in Star Trek. I wanted to see what people that weren't bridge crew. I mean, why not? It was one of the benefits of the Honor Harrington series. You got to see that from time to time.
I would have loved the Star Trek Next Generation Geordi LaForge episode. Just him keeping the ship running for an hour. What he has to go through.
It'd be sick. Like, that's gold, dude. It's gold.
Mm-hmm.
People want to see that. That's actually what draws a lot of people to, like, George Martin, or even like Rothfuss, right? Some of the more dry fantasy writers, because they'll dwell on stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He has like he started his main character, Rothfuss, that is. He started his main character as a kid and like as an urchin, and it's like, we're gonna start here, literally level 0,
right,
as a kid, where you get to see him struggle, and there's no like time jump really, from what I remember. But anyway, I digress. It's not about Rothfuss.
So with Rebel Moon, the issue with the wheat, that's more of a like simple go-to as a representation of the multitudes of problems similar to that, correct?
Yes.
He lost tracking because of the chaff, literally.
Because if they solve that, I've heard a lot of people complain about, they're like, it's all about the wheat. I'm like, so if they solve that, does it fix it? I think the answer is still a resounding not even close. That's just
not when the space Amish can fight them off.
That's their entire motivation as the
Amish. Now I'm interested.
Yeah,
that's another neurotic thing. So neurotic.
That's great.
The space Amish.
The Illuminamish.
Well, when he's ready, he's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sci-fi and food shortage is hard to wrap your brain around unless you have some sort of okay, let's make it work. Hold on, let's steal man, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's post his idea up on the fridge right now. Say, you tried, buddy, but this is what would actually pull it off here.
To be honest, a better approach is more like the Pandora approach, where there's this ultra rare thing under the ground of the farmers, and they didn't get to that. A McGuffinite.
Yep, yeah. McGuffinite.
Right. McGuffin grows in a plethora of places. It's a stupid MacGuffin. But like unobtainium, while kind of stupid still, it's less stupid.
Yeah, it's less stupid though. Yeah, you're right. Unobtainium worked barely. People still made fun of it. Still made fun of it. But like,
but imagine if Pandora was about corn. So
yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's
even the term spice too, and Dune. I'm like, the spice. It couldn't come with like a cooler name for it.
Well, at least they
name of this. Remember,
only there. Like,
remember this
sense, because the worm, it's their poop or vomit or whatever. So.
All I can think of is like they have the pumpkin latte. Poop. Oh, we're missing that one thing. We need the spice.
You realize what the name is for spice in there? Melange. You know what melange means? It's French for variety. I am not kidding. So variety is the spice of life.
In South Park, they kept talking about the spice melange.
Yep.
Yeah, it was in South Park. I was like, what is it? All right.
Melange is
the melange.
Variety.
It's fun to say.
Variety is the spice of life.
Gotta get the side where his action on the jaw.
Spice melange. Little
flashback to the Muppets there for you. Scary Sesame Street action.
something that the farmer's getting deep down as a MacGuffinite. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
McCoppin under the ground. It's in the
MacGuffinite.
soil. It gets in the chaff. That's why it's sparkly on the camera.
Yeah, MD, you mentioned Rebel Moon as like, from a military point of view. You know how expensive evasions are? They could have bought the wheat. Like, here's $1 billion. Give us the wheat. You know?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, dude. And they're poor rebels, so they would have like loved that. Like that's they could go shopping.
Here's a giant pile of gold. Please give us your wheat. Yeah, all right.
Somebody out there make a YouTube channel, and that's the whole premise where you green screen yourself into the shot, and you have a conversation. Then you should be like, actually, guys, just an idea, and then they throw it out, and all your videos of that in different movies. So it's sort of like pitch meeting, but like a little bit different.
How about we don't do that?
Wow.
So
you look more like him than I do, Emily.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Immediately adding unobtainium into a sci-fi story, though, does give you a good excuse to invade. But like McCoppin said, you can just buy it, but then that's when you make it a religious or holy thing, like the tree on Pandora. Essentially,
what's the complication now?
At least have a good reason for it to be rare. Like Dune does a good job. Only the worms make the spice, and they only live on this one planet. It's figured out. So take that extra step, Snyder, and say, hey, why is this planet so important besides just wheat? Which I
have 2 words when it comes to wheat and sci-fi: triticale and tribbles. Suck it. That is. Oh no, bro. That is still the number one. That is still the number one use of an agricultural product in science fiction ever. I mean, spice is a close second.
Can you think of a more boring vegetable too, or like a plant than wheat?
Well,
dude.
If you
something good like papaya or something.
Even like marijuana. Hey, it's the last marijuana plant.
Make it a drug. Don't have it be wheat. Don't have it be wheat. Make it a drug.
Yes.
Just remember this. Triticale was an extremely important plant when it was developed. And that was developed shortly before that whole thing. It is a miracle food. And so that's triticale is not science fiction. It's the real thing. They just, monkey. I think they added a number to the end or something. So, I mean, that's, that was pretty amazing for that era. But yeah, otherwise, if you make it a drug, you got melange.
They would have gotten flack for the the melange references, but like I don't know, it is possible to take it from me because like what I've been doing seems to be working so far, and I kind of wear all of my inspirations on my sleeve. I'm not it's like it's almost like if you try to claim ownership of everything as if you're not the first person who freaking had a lightsaber battle, Zack Snyder. Then people accept it. Like if you show reverence to this trope, that's a timeless thing we're literally watching it get passed down through our families, through the generation. The idea of a lightsaber, just think about that. That's a timeless sci-fi trope at this point. It's not just it's not just Star Wars. They coined the term, but that was there. That was always there,
So little spoiler then for those that are following my Dream Nebula. I am working. I haven't finished it yet, but I have a story coming up there. It's going to be an amplified world short story that's going to tag on to the main storyline. And in it, I'm having a duel happen, and I'm sitting there going, okay, so I think it was Flag in Exile with David Weber and Honor Harrington does a great duel, but otherwise all you get are that everybody starts getting into the whole lightsaber knockoffs. So I said, well, how the heck do I do that and make it a little something more unique and whatnot? And I said, all right, culture's got itself. It already has this built-in fetish for history and whatnot. So I said, fine. This is a nobleman that's about to do it, and they're always getting relics and whatnot. So I said, all right, what are famous dueling pistols? And I found out that one of the most famous pairs of dueling pistols were owned by Andrew Jackson. So I said, fine, he has Andrew Jackson's dueling pistols for this duel. So I'm not going super old, or I'm not doing, lightsabers or anything, because I'm sitting there thinking, all right, what kind of cool weapons do I have in this setting? And it just started feeling like I was just, trying to engage the rule of cool for no good reason. So let's go ahead and pull it back the other way. What's classic? And all of a sudden I have flintlock or caplock pistols. And I'm like,
Hell yeah.
okay, and put those in a Flash Gordon style setting. Yeah, perfect. There you go, Mixmaster. Have fun.
That's awesome.
Man,
Oh, yeah.
If I had a lightsaber, pruning the hedges would be a good time. Splitting wood would be a good time.
I think we touched on something here with Snyder and lightsabers. It's a good topic, but I am gonna really quickly take a word from our sponsor.
That's nice that you spared him the G at the beginning of the hey being not there. Totally changed the context.
We do have one more, but yeah, that's where I landed with that. But here's the next one.
Yeah. It's back.
Is everything okay up there?
Based.
Whenever I film
You're
that,
really weird.
it's like 10 o'clock out. The neighbors are like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Oh, hey."
Your wife has so much patience. She got ketchup or whatever that was all over the kitchen.
She's mad because I had like, some junk out, like a cord. She's like, "Why didn't you let me clean? I didn't know you were doing this." Fine.
Oh my gosh, dude! My cheeks hurt from smiling every time I watch that.
I love your videos, Emily. They're amazing.
Hey, they're fun to make when I have time. They're good. They're fun. I like them.
I probably watched your Christmas one 24 times.
This is Emily's wife. Whenever he starts making a video. Yeah. She's like, I already know.
I can relate. When I made the commercials of Paladin books, I had my daughters act it out. Oh, I was like, I clean the house first. Like, it's just, someone's going to see this.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, lightsabers have definitely always been there. I believe Flash Gordon was brought up earlier. Don't they have laser swords of some kind? You know, if you got sci-fi, you got lasers.
They have flame swords, at least in a couple of them. Well, otherwise they're just straight up. They're just straight up steel.
That's cool.
Is that movie good? Does it hold up? I've never seen it.
You've never seen the 1980 Flash Gordon, right?
There's more than one.
Yeah, there's a whole set of serials. There's going back in the 30s, and they are what you expect. That's where it all came from. Alex Raymond created the comic book. The comic book then was good enough that Hollyweird decided, before it became really weird, they started doing serials. So the nice short 20-minute movies, and they do sets of 8, 10, 12 of them, and they have a whole complete storyline. And for their era, they're excellent. For nowadays, they're just cheese-tastic fun. I mean, the iguanas, the giant iguanas, in other words, the iguanas crawling all over the models, are downright laughable. But at the same time, it has a certain amount of, I guess you could call it narm charm.
If I want to pick one to jump in, do I go to the 80 movie?
1980. I would either choose 1980 or season 1 only of the Flash Gordon cartoon from 79.
All right.
Do not go to season 2. For the love of God, don't go to season 2. Because that's when the TV executives started sending notes fast and furious, and Spears Rankin listened to him. Or Rankin Spears listened to him, and suddenly you got Gremlin, the little baby dragon that's pink.
You ever see that movie Explorers that makes fun of Flash Gordon a little bit? But the 3 kids who built a
I've heard of
spaceship.
it.
Oh,
I've
check
heard
that out. There's a scene where they're flying the spaceship in front of a cheesy Flash Gordon movie, and the props are like falling apart.
But yeah, the 1980 Flash Gordon film is a classic because it is the perfect mesh of the cheesiness, but the high adventure, and just they're just taking themselves just seriously enough that you can see them winking at you, kind of thing. And the performances are perfectly over the top. Brian Blessed as Voltan is a hoot and a half. Prince Baron, played by, oh God, I just blanked on his name. Dalton. Yeah. Not Jeffrey. Anyway, Dalton, James Bond guy. But he does a great super serious character that's a great counterpoint. But the crown jewel of it all is still Max von Sydow, who was given the chance to play one of his childhood favorite villains of Ming the Merciless, and just chews the scenery like a school of piranhas. It's glorious to watch. And
really quick. Shout outs to Eric Wag.
That's awesome.
Just continue.
So yeah, you go in there with a mind of going, okay, this is just going to be a good, clean fun. The sort of the same attitude you would go and read watching Smokey and the Bandit. I'm not taking this seriously. I'm here to just have a good time and eat popcorn, and then you'll enjoy it just fine. Because also the production designer went rogue. Apparently, he was given his notes from the director and ignored a lot of them. It was like, okay, this is supposed to be on the ground. No, I don't think so. I'm gonna put it in a tree because he's Italian. half the stuff is all half the production crew was Italian, so they had translator problems. It was just Timothy Dalton. Thank you so much.
Hands everywhere. Boom mics getting slapped.
But
I was
well done.
I was trying to pull up Explorers because I'm like, there's some movie where the kid has a poster of it on the wall, I think. But the cover of it, there's 3 kids, and yet the name's listed: River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke.
Yep.
Yeah.
The third kid is on the cover. He doesn't get a
It's
credit.
a classic. Check it out. It's amazing.
So circling back really quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What were you gonna say?
No, you go, AC. Go.
Oh, sorry. Circling back really quick to the lightsaber thing. The reason I'm like fixating on that one thing is because it made me realize that I think nobody's mad that Snyder's trying to make his own universe. It's actually kind of cool. That's where I give him some extra leeway, is just having the balls to at least try it. I kind of view him as the spoiled rich kid who just kind of had it handed to him, though, in a way. I know he has a whole career. Don't come at me like before, but like he has a whole career and all that, sure. But like still, it sure helps to start with millions of dollars, doesn't it? But I digress. I think what he failed at was tropes. So he utilized all these tropes, but people weren't having it because the premise to begin with, like you guys said, couldn't get off the ground. And we touched on the other things, like he was just thinking about like the scene to scene instead of all the logistics. Like you said, geniuses think about logistics. But the trope thing, you can get around logistics. It's like, yeah, sure, fantasy universe, let's have fun, but it has to be fun. And it's not fun if you have things that are a little bit more than continuity errors, where it just doesn't make sense from the get-go, but also bastardization of tropes. because tropes are there for a reason. We love them. The fire sword, the hot sword, the flaming sword, the laser sword, you know, the really cool future sword, you know,
The hot sword.
that's the symbol, I think.
Sexy
That's the
sword.
symbol. Or like the laser gun, right?
Some of these
You
names
got-
sound cooler than the others.
I
Laser
know,
gun
right?
sounds cool, but the
I
hot
fully
sword.
plan to use hot metal swords ultimately in my own series. So, I mean, it's, you know, I know it's a ripoff. I don't care.
And it's
I'll
not a
use it.
ripoff. That's what I'm getting at. It's a trope.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
a ripoff.
and I mean, you have so many different ways to handle tropes out there. I wish I could find it. There's a list of ways that you could use the different tropes in there, from playing it straight to inverting the trope to analyzing the trope to lampshading the trope of, look at this trope right here. You know, put the lampshade on the head. He's the life of the party trope. Ooh, everybody notice him. Seriously, that's what it comes from.
It works. It works
yeah.
unless you're Halo and you're vandalizing. If you're vandalizing something, lampshading just makes it worse. It makes it so much worse.
Lampshading? Is that the official
Figured out
term?
Halo.
Lampshading,
Yes, it
yeah.
is.
Oh, really?
It is.
Oh,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
You
hang
put the
or
lampshade on your head to get attention.
you hang a
Oh, I
lantern
thought
on
was
it.
called peacock.
Or you hang a lantern on it. Yeah. Or yes, you hang the lantern on it, or you put the lampshade on it to get attention and to mock it. That's the other thing in there. So
Oh, man.
the whole
All right.
Yeah, it's
there's
like
12
you're
different
very
ways.
aware that you have lightsabers in your story, right? We'll just stick to lightsabers, right? You're very aware that Star Wars and all these other very successful things, and even now Zack Snyder's piece of crap that just came out has lightsabers in it. So you got to really do it good. You're very aware of it. You know, one way to alleviate that is by kind of pointing out, like, you could, and it could be humor, like Boncher said. You know, you're trying to alleviate with humor. You could be like, is that a freaking laser sword? You have a character literally say, you guys have laser swords. You know,
That'd
what I mean?
be a lampshade.
Yeah.
That'd be a lampshade.
Yeah. So they directly point it out, or you know, or in a movie, the camera would dwell on it maybe in some way. There's ways to do it in movies and cinema too, and even in theater.
And then they prune the hedge with the sword and go, that just happened. I did a thing.
I'll be right back though, because my son is in need. I'll be right back.
Oh, I hear him.
Well, one other topic. I don't know if I don't think AC will care if we sidestep into this one. We were talking about the last Starfighter as another space opera to check out. So I had never seen it before. I watched it for the first time in my life yesterday, and I had a good time with it. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh, it's a great film.
I think as a kid, I probably would have watched it a lot.
Yeah,
but as an adult, I still had fun with it. It was had pretty much everything I look for in a movie. It was like immediately everybody in the little trailer park community, they're all buddy, and they're like cheerleading for everybody. Everyone gets along. There's no any problems or drama. I was like,
he's going for the record.
Yeah. That's what I was like. This is great. Like everybody's getting along. I was like, that's sweet.
Though it had that touch of creepy, scary with the beta unit. You're like, until such time as you actually see him fully, and then it gets hilarious. But when you first see it, the face is just pulsing. You're like,
yeah. When they capture the spy and they melt his head, like I remember being a kid.
That seems intense. When I was watching, it's just a glimpse that they show a spy getting blasted. But it's grotesque.
Especially 90 days, baby.
Oh yeah. So AC, sorry, just to catch him up in case you missed it. We're jumping into the last Starfighter.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that before we left. The only thing I wanted with the lightsaber thing was to touch on tropes. I think it's like if you can win people over with things that they love, like cultural things that are being passed down, like tropes. Trope is a bad word sometimes, but it's really not. It's genres are collections of tropes. So Snyder wasn't really like committing some sin by loading his stuff up with it, but he was committing some sin by doing it poorly because it's a cultural thing at that point.
I just gotta point out something in regards to tropes in general, is that when a trope is a handle on a large bag of information. And when you're and I have kept this in mind with mine, when I'm writing to a trope, exactly. Tropes are not cliches. But I am writing to deliver on that. It's a promise that these things are going to be. If I'm writing science fiction, I'm going to have X, Y, and Z. It's part of why I'm getting scolded a little bit by some of my my alpha readers and Bambo about the fact that my sci-fi is niche because it doesn't directly hit some of these tropes. It kind of glances off and spins them around at times. It trick shoots with some of them. So
tropes allow writers to get information quickly to readers. Say, hey, this character is this box, more or less. This was this character. Yeah,
this character is this trope.
Yeah. So last Starfighter. For those who don't know, let's just read the description directly, because the description, I was really pleasantly surprised when because I never heard of this movie before.
I had heard of it, but I didn't know much about it. I had seen the name like on Twitter or X at times, people talking about it being like a classic, old timey, grown up with it sci-fi movie, but that was all I knew about it.
It was one of the big computer generated special effects pieces post Tron. Post Tron. And God, those explosions are so bad.
Well, they were great in '84.
No, they weren't even good then.
You can't be practical, man. You used to see the slow pan of the ships in Star Wars, and you come to these little CG models. It's like, the tinfoil, they just look hollow. But
but they weren't Harvey Korman, or not Harvey Korman, but they weren't Korman level. So
So after spending like all this time recently, leading up to the launch of Iron Seas and on my own podcast here at the Pritchard Pub, which is now every Thursday. We're on a regular schedule now, but I digress. After all the ramped up energy of getting outraged, like I said, I use the word vandalism now, especially after I checked out Halo. I was like, I know it's bad, but I need to see what they did. You know what I mean? It's like if somebody got all the rights to Superman or some other like cultural figure, you know what I mean? Like Superman kind of represents America in a way, even though he's an alien. That actually even adds to it because America's full of like refugees and immigrants and stuff. So he's an alien immigrant refugee adopted by a classic American family. So like these characters do actually mean something at the end of the day. And when you when you vandalize it, it pisses people off. But this movie, my whole point leading up to that, this movie I think is actually rife for the picking to be remade and adapted.
I'd agree.
I'm not anti-adaptation or remake. I never am. It's just all these people are vandalizing. So it's not an adaptation and it's not a remake. It's vandalism. So
it's because they're sophists and they're using it for propaganda. They're basically wolves in sheep's clothing. And
or even like super mega capitalists that are just trying to pander to as many people as possible, right?
And they're using nostalgia as the bait.
It's more like amateur propaganda, really.
Yeah, we see right through it. It sucks, but kids don't. So that's the other thing.
You're number one, Evelyn.
Yeah, right. So I'll read the description quick. I have it pulled up. I'll read it quick and then we'll get into talking about the movie because it is actually really cool, but I think I have some thoughts. So
thoughts away.
After finally achieving the high score on Starfighter, his favorite arcade game, everyday teenager Alex Rogan meets the game's designer, Centauri. Centauri was awesome. Who reveals that he created Starfighter as a training ground for developing and recruiting actual pilots to help fight a war in space. Dun, dun, dun. Whisked away from the banality of his trailer park life to a distant alien planet, Alex struggles to use his video game playing skills to pilot a real ship with... Oh, what does that say? I think that's something on my screen. Yeah, with lives at stake. That's what it says. With lives at stake. I just have terrible eyesight. But anyway, that's the premise for those listening.
Yeah,
and that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me of I saw, what was it, Ready Player One a handful of years ago, and this had to have influenced that story, right? Even the stacks at the beginning with the trailer there versus the trailer park here. I think it's kind of
was around.
They try to paint this kid's life as if it was like boring and awful. I'm like, dude, your life looks pretty sweet. It was like in Canyon County. California. It's like beautiful countryside. It's probably like 72 degrees year round. He's got a cute girlfriend. His brother's hilarious. The
She's like
neighbors
opining for him. She's like opining for him so hard. She's like, "You're so
like,
awesome, man."
His all his buddies show up like, "Hey, man, we're gonna go up to Silver Lake and
He's
take
just
down
getting
the
cucked.
back." Like,
He gets cucked a little bit. He gets cucked a
don't
little
know.
bit. She goes and hangs out with some jocks or whatever, like always happens in the 80s,
Yeah.
So
Kind of what
He's
was
gotta-
unique about it though was movies leading up to this. MD and I are kind of in the age group we saw this when we were kids. I think Everly and It's You Too Young. Every
Yeah.
movie before this, the kids were in suburbia. They were middle class, like E.T.,
Always.
Pretty in Punk, Pretty in Pink. I'm sorry, all middle class. This was a trailer park kids. This was a new concept. Like, wow, this guy's poor like me. No more rich kids. So it changed it a little bit.
Yeah, no more
Right.
kids coming from the suburbs like in Poltergeist.
Trailer
I
park
see.
That ended well.
I like that. Then. No, that's cool. That's like that actually has like a cultural effect then.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
Well, it was reflecting the culture that was. This was the silent generations coasting on its laurels, and the boomers rising up and with their kids now trying to imitate their parents in a lot of ways. And boy, that held. Yeah, I saw it in the theaters too, Herman.
Nice.
Yeah,
One
for
other
us Gen
thing I-
Xers, this was like we grew up with the introduction of video games in the 70s with Pac-Man and whatnot, and like we had no parents. That's why we're called latchkey kids. We had no parents, so video games was kind of our babysitter. So now, like, hey, here's a
Oh,
video
yeah.
game that can take you
TV.
away to better things. It's this
Better
great
days, man. Better
We
times.
all wanted to win at Starfighter.
Yeah.
The thing about that too is they have this game ready to go that surely the consoles at the time could have done some kind of facsimile of that game in the movie, and it never got made. There's like
Yeah.
different versions of it that were bandied about, and then they put out a
I
game.
remember
that was
reading
supposed to be
it
but
would have
wasn't.
cost $10,000 per unit. So Atari's like, forget that. It's too expensive.
And yeah, so
Not-
I'm like, I can't believe they do that. The bunch of babies.
Yeah, RH is a boomer. Sorry. RH.
The
No, that's
movie,
true.
movie itself though, 15 million was the budget. It made 30. I don't know what advertising and stuff worked out to back in the day, but surely
It was
it's had-
far less than today.
yeah, I'm sure it wasn't double like it is today. So it sounds like it did pretty well back then, and it's still a cult classic. And
It was a
Everly,
moderate
sound
success.
guy. That
Not even
soundtrack
winning
is
it.
amazing. I love
was-
that.
Yeah,
soundtrack.
no, I
Lots of
agree.
talk
The
about
sound
that.
stood out to me so much.
And
Stood
it's
out to
the guy who did the music. I was writing his name down. It was like something Safan, maybe Safan. I think that was it. He also did the score for Cheers, according to IMDb,
Huh.
which is interesting. But I felt like the music it was very large,
Yeah.
large music, but it was also soft, and there was a lot of like
Mhm.
almost like you could swim through it. It felt very spatial. And I was reading about it, and he was saying that he wanted the soundtrack to sound bigger than Star Wars. And so they added all these extra instruments into the orchestra. And I mean, I was on crappy speakers on my TV. It wasn't like a headset or the little blue thing or whatever. And it still sounded like very three-dimensional. So the music, the writing of it, isn't amazing. It just fits what's happening in the scenes, but it sounds really good.
What's amazing is that until, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the largest orchestras they assembled, or until 1985, when Alan Silvestri blew them all away with like an 89-piece orchestra for Back to the Future, which is still stands the record as the largest orchestra assembled for any film.
I just want to say, I love that
They
you
go to
guys,
synthesizers.
you guys research all this stuff because, as I said in our private chat, I watched this probably 500 times when I was between the ages of 10 and like 14, probably that age group.
I taped
But
it
I
off
haven't
the
watched it
TV and
since.
wore VHS out.
Yeah, I wore the VHS, which I did for like my Indiana Jones copy. A bunch of VHSs wear out. Hey, kids, VHSs used to wear out. It's not like DVDs or stream, which will last forever. But I love that you guys research this because this is a movie from my youth. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like a
Into the
nerd.
stuff.
I love digging into the special features and the commentary tracks. I love them, which I will still maintain. The best commentary track I have ever heard was Roger Ebert on Dark City. It is a masterclass on film analysis and story analysis. I am not joking. That man forgot more than what most screenwriters today know.
Yeah.
And he never wrote a screenplay. He didn't have to. He knew it all already. It was amazing.
Right. That's how it's done.
Talking about some of the behind the scenes stuff too, if I wrote this down correctly, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the writer of this movie also wrote Escape from LA Escape from New York.
Oh,
August
awesome.
Rush, which I've never seen, and then Hulk.
Awesome. August Rush was
Like-
good.
The Hulk TV series or
Hook.
Hook.
Yarg.
Oh, Hook. Oh, like Robin
Major
Williams.
That's what I did.
Talk.
He's got a really mixed career, I will admit. If one of the things in your hey, that's why it felt so familiar. He also did My Science Project in 1985. I love that film. That thing is so messed up. I think it's Fisher Stevens' first work, and he's just a scream. But he also has Theodore Rex in his list of accomplishments, which please don't. But yes, last Starfighter, Captain America, he worked on last Winter Soldier apparently. He was the producer for Theodore Rex, and then he also wrote My Science Project. So that's why Last Starfighter and My Science Project seem to have such similar vibes. If you're not familiar with My Science Project, kid finds an alien piece of junk out in an abandoned air graveyard that turns out to be a time machine that gets out of control.
That's how you get a time machine.
Another great flick.
That's how you get a time machine. Dude, this guy sounds.
What was that? Why am I based? Who's based? Where are we based?
This director's based.
Oh yeah.
Emily, you watched Last Starfighter last night?
Yesterday. It wasn't at night. It was like the morning-ish. I watched it.
So,
Has to do with movies.
yeah, I'm thinking back. Probably last time I watched it was probably 12 years ago with my wife, just to show it to her. So I'm trying to. I wanted to come into this fresh in my memory. I remember a lot of the things from the movie as takeaways, like life lessons. You know, like when the Alex is like, "Hey, Centauri, I'm just a kid from a trailer park." He's like, "If that's what you think you are, that's all you ever be." Like stuff like that really seemed to hit me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So this actually reminds me of like how I felt about it. I have like a split, like kind of down the middle. Like I feel like they could have cut out half the movie, but the part that I feel like they shouldn't have cut out is just so good. It's like full of stuff like what you're saying and the concept. Like I wanted to read the concept, the summary of it on the stream because it's just such a cool summary. Like a kid playing video games gets recruited. Dude, that's like every little boy's fantasy. You know what I mean? You're playing the game like, I wish Pokemon was real. You know, and all of a sudden, Portal Fantasy time. Let's go. You know.
So here's something else funny. Centauri there was played by Robert Preston, who I can't remember if he won the Oscar or if he was nominated for the Oscar for The Music Man. Yeah. If you guys, okay, neither of you know what that movie is.
Well, surprising no one. I don't know what that is.
It's a classic 1950s or early 60s musical about a musician salesman who's trying to drum up business. See what I did there? Yeah, it's a classic. It's a classic. It's considered one of AFI's top 100, if I recall correctly.
I think it was Beta, like the copy of Alex. Beta.
Oh yeah, that was great.
He's great.
That's good acting. They got to think of it. That's some good acting too. Then on the part of
in the credits, it's a girl. He shakes hands with the girl, and the next day it looks like Alex.
And they did some off-screen storytelling too. When the next time you see his girlfriend, she's walking away, and she's like, "I'll take me and my weird sexual urges elsewhere." Then,
great line.
He was basically the comic relief, and they gave him like a heroic finality to his character. But that is actually, unfortunately, the aspect of the story that I really wish they would have just cut out with. Imagine if they. Imagine because you don't need to explain it. You have us with the concept. It is such a good fantasy concept. Like I said,
it's
Portal
kind of cheesy when Beta sacrifices himself to one of the assassins shows up and he crashes the truck or whatever it was, and the girl's like, "I love you, Alex, wherever you are." Like,
super cheese, but awesome.
I love that stuff though. I was like, this is like perfect 80s. Now, I think everybody in the chat's probably seen it. If anyone watches this later in the movie, Alex Rogan goes off to space to join the Starfighters, and they leave behind a robot cyborg clone version of him.
Spoiler alert on a 40-year-old movie. So
to hang out, and so that the townspeople don't know that the real Alex has gone up in space, but he doesn't know how to be real Alex necessarily.
He's just a robot who's stupid.
There's some
he just
funny
looks like him. That's it. Looks and sounds like.
The girls
and then he go to the beach off to like fix his ear.
Oh yeah, the brother.
And then of course Lewis is Steve. Oh yeah, I'll tell you all about your secret Playboy collection. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lewis is a little scene stealer every single time.
He's got some good lines. But I love the scene where Beta's then at the beach and the girlfriend's like, let's go up to Silver Lake, let's make out and whatever. And he's like on the blanket with her and he doesn't know what to say. And she's like getting upset. And then he can use his super hearing because he's a robot or whatever to hear the guy down the
All
stretch
those other
talk
girls
to his
didn't mean
girlfriend.
anything to me.
And yeah, he says all these things like, oh, you're my Venus, you're my Juliet. And he like then says it to his girlfriend. She's like, oh, go on. And then that guy says, yeah, all those other girls didn't mean anything to me. You're all that mattered. And then he says to her, she's like, what? Like, it's all upset. So, it was very stupid. It was unnecessary in a lot of ways. But to me, it's like, if I'm watching these silly 80s movies, I want them like jam-packed with that stuff. Like, silly doesn't need to be there. It's just there for no good reason. The cheesy line. She's like, I'm thinking of you, ass.
Funny.
There's nobody around to talk to.
That's some of the charm, though.
Yeah,
it is.
That's what I want out of those movies for sure.
I don't want to take that away because I am one of the first people who recognizes that charm. You know what I mean? Like I see it there. Like I love that stuff too. It is dead, and it was like watching an artifact. I was like, this is amazing. This is like gold. And I'm just saying from a technical writing perspective, and I even have in our outro a little speech from me about don't listen to like basically people who say this is the way you must do it, but there's buts to things, you know what I mean? Like we were talking about tropes not being done right. There's reasons for that too, like cultural it's a cultural treasure at that point. But like just from a writing perspective, if you're following this protagonist, he very clearly was the main character. We're kind of over his shoulder the entire time. He gets whisked off. It gets all the way to that point where he gets whisked off. We even see the Federation and all that, all the other people. We see the other students. We're in it. We're in the fantasy. We're there. And then it cuts back to Earth. And it's like, whoa, what's going on in Earth? I thought it actually reminded me of an episode of Rick and Morty or something where it was just like, now we're going to cut away to this other random storyline and see what's going on over here. And I'm like, it wasn't like a turnoff or anything, but I was just like, man,
you're like, let's get back in space. Let's see what's going on.
Momentum.
I will say, Beta might have the best line in the whole movie when I think Alex is trying to decide whether he wants to go back to be a starfighter, and Beta's like, hey, down here your dog food. At least up there you have a fighting chance. Like that was like, oh yeah.
No, I'm all about it. Yeah. No, I love Beta as a character. I just like it's like
I will admit that Starfighter had that problem of having two parallel storylines running, and the transition was never clean. And that was probably it. Both storylines are solid, but they both have this level of wide-eyed innocence to them. Even with the serious nature of what's supposed to be going on, it still has this light touch innocence that you just don't get anymore. But yeah, the transitions were really hard jumps, and that's what made it a lot. You guys
still have IMDb up for the movie?
Yeah.
Who played the Navigator? If you had a gun to my head, I would have said Louis Gossett Jr. Who played the Navigator?
No, it's. I don't know who it is, but that was not it. What was his name?
His name was Greg, and that was Dan O'Hurley. Yeah. That was Dan O'Hurley.
Yeah, he's got some name.
As in Network.
As in RoboCop.
Yeah, RoboCop. Him.
Yeah,
that's he in.
No way. No way.
Same guy.
My entire life, I thought it was Louis Gossett Jr. played that role in makeup.
Wow. Well, no, you're thinking Enemy Mine.
Yeah, that too. I thought it was the same.
Ooh, I pitched that to the panel, to the other the co-captains. I pitched Enemy Mine. I didn't see anybody mention that. I was like, gotta watch that.
Adult me's like, hey, his role in Starfighter got him Enemy Mine because he looked good in makeup and could act, but it's a different actor.
Dude, yeah, the Navigator. Now that you mention it, okay, so there was the makeup. Okay, the makeup. That was one thing where they failed at some of it. You see some bad aliens. You see some bad aliens. But you see some good ones. The Navigator is a good example of a good alien. Like the prosthetics weren't that bad. Like you see a little bit of his.
He does that like the whole time. I love it.
You see a little bit of his skin peeking through around the eyes, but like it actually
a little bit of white.
Oh yeah,
it adds to it.
in a lot of these old movies too, they find a point to say the title of the movie in the dialogue. Where it happens, I was just like, I wanted them to almost look at the screen like, eh. I love that. And then they're talking about the makeup effects being a little questionable at times. His like spacesuit just looks like cheap. And there's the scene later on towards the end. He's like coming back to I think Earth to get the girl or whatever. He's got his helmet on. It's all fogged up. It's like you guys don't have the technology.
That's realistic. It's foggy.
It's realistic. Yeah.
No ventilation.
Assassin that had the eyes
Totally
offset,
fogged
but they
up.
didn't blink or anything.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Too
Big
funny.
marbles on the side. No, there was. I brought up the bad aliens because there's also good aliens like the Navigator. I think that was a well done use of prosthetics.
The one dude had like that glass panel would go whenever he got serious.
Yeah.
Like,
Dragon Ball, yeah.
Dude, yeah, you don't see characters like this anymore that are so cartoony like that. You're
It's just
so right.
You know what he's thinking because his panel's in front of his face now. Like, oh, he's ready.
Yep.
Everybody's so
And
scared
Then
to
the
have
high
that.
tech weep.
And then
There was
the main bad guy had that scepter with the blade. He kept like
yeah.
threatening people with it. Like,
showing me.
What are you doing?
He is
There was a real bit of you right there.
And so they were talking about doing a sequel for a while, and I guess it never totally got off the ground. But yeah, Zur, who's the son of the Galactic Force, the Starfighters, it's his kid is a bad guy, and he's working with the enemy, and he escapes their ship because they're turning on him, and he gets away, but he's still not. He's not a good guy. He still has bad intentions. So they're like, oh, there's a sequel to be had there.
I remember the kid thinking, why is
and
this
their
scepter
haircuts
scary? They got like lasers. Like, who cares
Yes.
about?
Yeah, he's got like switchblades on his little staff. I love too whenever Alex first gets to space, the first person he meets talking about the makeup is this lady, and all they like alien race, they all just have these giant bald foreheads. So this woman walks up to him with this giant bald
Looks
forehead, and I'm like, what is
Looks
happening?
like Lou
What is
Grant.
this?
Yeah. The Lou Grant hairstyle on a not bad looking woman otherwise.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this is bizarre.
And
It's like,
somehow
what do we do?
like George Washington wig hair. It was like
Yeah.
everybody had this.
Yes.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That was going to be my next thing. The bad aliens are mostly those people with the weird foreheads and the hair. It's like I think
Star
that's a
Trek
bad
rules.
example. I'm pretty sure this is yeah.
They
This
probably
like
had
a-
their budget on
like a
CGI.
human
That's probably what
before.
happened.
yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
You're just like a human, but you have a freaky forehead and different skin.
The hair threw me off though. I don't know. Just have them bald or something.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
works.
Boyhood me didn't care. Like, oh, they're an alien because their hair parts differently.
yeah, that's fair. The target audience was yeah. You're right.
It was MD and I when we were kids was a target audience. We were video gamers, son of boomers that wanted to escape our daily life, and this movie hit all those things.
Yeah.
For sure.
One other thing with the story too, Centauri's in the chat. The part where he's like he's dead and he dies. I'm like, oh, they killed him. And then later on, he's like, I was fine. I just had to nap while my body healed. It's like,
It's only a
everybody, you're
flesh
dead,
wound.
you ass. Like, come on.
Yeah, right.
He got, like,
Yeah.
that gray face. That's his real face.
That was pretty typical also for a lot of
Oh.
80s stuff aimed at kids.
Yeah.
With
To
Centauri
duck that
too,
bullet.
I felt like that design. You guys played Fallout 3 and 4 or New Vegas, The Mysterious Stranger.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I
Can't
see
help
that.
but wonder. If
Oh,
I don't know. It reminded me of maybe there's no time.
He has that cap and like the overcoat.
Yeah, it's kind of like
He looks like a noir detective. He's dressed like
Yeah,
a noir detective. He has got a 44,
he's
and he
got the
shows up. In your,
Hermes.
he shows up only in your
look.
time of need.
Hermes.
He gets
trench
shot
coat.
and just needs a nap to get healed.
He
Yeah,
usually just shoots and misses a whole bunch.
yeah. He always misses.
I can't help but wonder if that Centauri influenced whoever came up with the Mysterious Stranger's design on some level. I don't know.
Centauri was well done. That was
Yeah,
cool.
he's a fun character.
Oh, yeah.
And Centauri is just like just kind of appears. He's just like, come with me.
What was that from? You know that
I'm looking
started
for
out
the
was like it's
For
that was
whomever
Rocky.
won that day, my boy.
Yeah, dude, it's sick. It's from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh, okay. I was like, that
It's
style
like-
looks familiar. Got it.
The cat's theme. The cat's theme.
So-
I also have him tapping the sign, but I'll only do that if I need to use it.
So what's the next step?
What's
I
the
like Starfighter enough. I need more recommendations. What's the next movie I should watch
Oh.
that is in the same kind of style?
I
My
reiterate.
Science Project would be a good choice.
Yeah, My Science Project. It's
Project.
not a great film, but you get to watch Dennis Hopper go off the rails as a former hippie now turned school teacher. That unto itself is worth watching.
Yeah.
And it also stars Dean Stockwell, who was the lead in Christine, which is a
Night of
vastly underrated film.
Yeah.
Night
I don't
of-
know
You
if
want
I
like that wide-eyed innocence. Explorers. If you haven't seen Explorers, go check
Mhm.
that out. I mean, the cast is stellar. It's River Phoenix when he's like 12. It's amazing.
Ethan Hawke and some third kid who doesn't get a credit on the cover.
Yeah, Enemy Mine is a good one, of course.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon, I'd put at the top of the list.
We're gonna be unloading list after list of because every week we want to vote on something and like watch some movie. It doesn't have to be like new and it doesn't have to be old. But we've been kind of leaning a little bit towards vintage. Like our first one was Treasure Planet. I was sick for that one. That's one of my favorite movies. But I could just talk about. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, we'll be doing a lot of these honestly. And
We should do a
I have a weird
comparison to like the Muppet Treasure Island versus Treasure Planet and kind of contrast compare the two best adaptations of that story.
Can I throw out an absolute wackadoodle suggestion for a movie?
Wackadoodle?
This is wackadoodle. It
Yes, you
is Gene Kelly. It's Gene Kelly's last film, Xanadu.
Xanadu.
Yeah,
Xanadu
it
and
is
Xanadu.
a rock. Yeah, it's a rock opera. It's absolutely cheese-tastic. The only thing going for it really is the fact that you have Olivia Newton-John at the height of her prowess, ELO on the soundtrack, and Gene Kelly being Gene Kelly, and the only person that can in the world. You don't know who Gene Kelly is, do you?
What is the rock opera? Is it like space opera? Is another one of those?
No, it's basically a
oh, here we go.
yeah. So the first rock opera that I've ever heard of was Tommy,
Good
which
one.
basically is a story told by a sequence of songs. And
Oh.
Think
Xanadu,
Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of.
yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show
Yeah.
would fall into rock opera nominally, but that's more of a weird, wacko cultural
What's
event.
the Who Pinball Wizard? Is that what's called?
Yep,
Pinball
that's
Wizard?
Tommy. That's out of Tommy.
Okay.
But
By the
Xanadu was kind of the roller disco version of that. So it is cheesy upon cheese. And it also is one of Joel Silver's, the Godfather of action films, first productions.
Oh wow.
That's what made me go, wait, what? But the music is great. Like I said, you got Olivia Newton-John at the top of the game. You got Don Bluth doing animation, and you have ELO just cranking out some massively good tunes. But
Right.
it's
I
the
will watch the
conceit.
trailer. I watched the
Yeah.
trailer.
Oh,
Not
the trailer is terrible. It's horrible. The trailer is
Oh.
god awful.
movies that are for being into music, movies that are just music, like musicals and stuff. I don't think I've ever seen one I really liked. Something
Even
about people
Newsies?
being like, "I'm walking now, I'm singing." I'm like, "Oh, stop, turn it
it's
off."
not quite like that.
Sweeney Todd.
Ha, that's a
Which
good
one?
one.
Sweeney
Sweeney
Todd.
Sweeney
Todd.
Todd?
Which
Eh.
one? The Broadway or the Tim Burton?
I saw the
I
Tim
just,
Burton.
Tim Burton's the famous one, but Broadway counts. I would say Nightmare Before Christmas too.
Group
Not to Tim Burton it up a little bit, but like, yeah, Nightmare works.
He did not direct that one. He only produced it.
Ah, you're right. Touche.
So Herman says War Games. That might be a good one given the current state of affairs too.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, you want to also look at Red Dawn.
Yeah, Red Dawn.
That's
Sky's
a
Little
good
Kitties for Life.
Oh,
I
that's a
watched
great one.
Red Dawn. I just watched that. So one of the things my wife and I do for dinner is we'll usually turn on like first time watching because we always let's test these person's sense of humor. So did they watch Blazing Saddles? Yes. How did they react? But I saw one for Red Dawn, and she was like, millennial. She was practically traumatized by the movie because she's watching, the Russian army do the Russian army stuff, and she's like, "Why isn't anyone calling the police? This is a military action." But she literally said that.
The end of the
Like,
world.
yeah, it's World War
This is
III.
the moment.
But she
Yeah,
had
they're coming
no concept whatsoever. It was amazing.
Oh,
Did you have
like-
your millennial child watch the remake, the re-release they did?
No, she did. She watched the original Patrick Swayze, Jennifer
Good,
Grey.
good.
Yeah, I mean, there is no other one. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. there is a perversion out there of a mockery of a stupid thing called a remake of Red Dawn.
Terrible. So bad.
They lost me the instant they said, "Oh, we're making it North Korea." Done. I'm out.
So hold on, real quick. Oh, that's such a good topic that we could delve into, but we got to be pragmatic. Okay, real quick. Summarize why Korea commies bad versus Russian commies. Well, Korea, I guess
they don't have the means to invade that Russia has the means to invade.
China doesn't even have the means to invade America now.
That's propaganda.
They don't have the ability to project force. They can barely. There's a good chance they couldn't even invade Taiwan with their carriers cracking into, because all they did was not.
What'd you think of Leave the World Behind? Did you
Never heard of it. Oh wait, no, I've heard of it. No, I didn't see it.
Obama produced. Okay, got you. I hear you. In that one, okay, what if they did Red Dawn, but they did the Leave the World Behind approach where all the commies band up against us? So North Korea is there, but so is like Islam. They're not commies, but like they're our enemies, right? They got Islam in there. They got Russian.
I still feel like it's Red Dawn, because that would just be like in that section, that state was invaded by Russia, while another state's invaded by China, another state's invaded by ISIS.
Yeah. So the problem we have with remaking Red Dawn right now, Jonathan Milieu was a genius with that movie. Remember, this is the screenwriter that wrote with Francis Ford Coppola Apocalypse Now, which of course is a 1960s fever dream over Vietnam. But he wrote this as sort of as a love story or as a love letter to his youth, and growing up in the Colorado wilderness, and about learning to survive out there as a teen. And he understood the one word I said earlier on, logistics. He understood the geopolitics that had to happen to cause this to at least be believable. The instant you said they say North Korea or China right now, I'm out, because they don't have believable logistics. There are very few nations right now that could feasibly do a large-scale military invasion that was theorized in Red Dawn. Back then, Russia could have done it. Russia had the Navy to pull it off.
The Soviet Union.
Yeah, that's true. Soviet Union would have been able to do that back then. But nowadays, no.
Right. That's why I pitched the Leave the World Behind approach, where they all create a coalition of access, if you will.
They'll just put it under they'll just put them under blue helmets and call them peacekeepers.
Right.
All over the world. I wish I was joking.
Forgive me for just like dwelling on this for a minute, because it is a cool concept. There's a reason why Red Dawn succeeded. It's kind of a terrifying thing to think about, because like I'm just imagining like they're flying them over on Chinese planes and dropping Arab soldiers who are using Russian weapons, and they got Korean soldiers next to them. You know what I mean? They just kind of,
their goals are too different.
Yeah, I know.
You have three major power sources that are against the United States right now: the WEF-aligned globalists, the Islam, and China and their satellites. The problem is that none of them can quite pull it off, and neither of them will team up. Really,
can't get along.
It's going to be the scorpion on the back of the frog.
Yeah, and in fact, I think Russia just backed the West in a weird move recently with the Middle East going on. I don't want to get too far into it, but I think something like that happened. Like he's waging war with the West up here in Ukraine, but then like backs the West down here in the Middle East. I
would say if anybody's really curious, there's a website called We Are the Mighty, which hypothesizes these invasion scenarios, and one of them is USA versus the world. And we kind of win still. So
it all ends badly, right?
It all ends badly. Yeah.
But it ends more badly for everybody else, right, boys?
Right.
Yeah. Fallout. Oh, okay.
I don't know how bad that would turn out.
Yeah, right. The next thing, or the final thing, I should say, in the little bit of time we got left, book talk. That was one of our topics. I have it pulled up here because, as you can see, it's like its own thing.
Yeah, I've never heard of this. I mean, partially because I'm not on TikTok, but
so I'm in an authors group that talks about this a lot, and some people are very, very, very successful advertising their books through this. I haven't tried it yet, but there are people who are like, that's their income. It's just they have advertisement through this.
What?
Might be around in 6 months, because TikTok is going to potentially, all of ByteDance is going to possibly be forced to sell all apps in America in the next 6 months.
Mhm.
because they just passed Congress and it is going to blow through the Senate like nobody's business.
I'm
So-
nervous about TikTok. I thought about doing the author thing on here for Book Talk. I created an account and downloaded my phone. The very first thing I saw was boobies. Like, all right, I'm done with this app.
Oh wow! They actually
It's-
let that. Wow.
It's admitted Chinese spyware, so no chance. I won't
CA
put it on
Pence
my.
is not a fan either.
Yeah, it's spyware. It is basically reporting everything about you and anything you can glean through you to the Chinese military. Not joking. It's already been admitted.
You mean they're just going to find out how cool I am?
Yeah,
Come to my
and
house.
what
I'm on
the
the water.
passwords are, and then they'll lock you out of your bank. It's all about and that's how they target you for psyops too. So, yeah, we can go down this rabbit hole a long way with me.
Well, my experience with it, I'm muted over here because the dog's barking. My wife's coming home.
worries.
But my experience with it is and you guys can keep it going. I'm just going to scroll through Book Talk and try to chime in when I can. There are some inflated authors that, as you saw, there's almost 32 million videos here. So, like, this is a very active hashtag. Like, we all kind of,
so
CA Pence had a
active.
reaction about it.
It's dead. It's dead internet.
Books
Right.
a Million has a Book Talk section now where like people who are featured in TikTok through the Book Talk hashtag have a section in Books a Million now.
Jeez. Yep. I
What
would
about
never.
Bookspace? Do they do anything cool like this on MySpace?
But yeah, what I was saying though, inflated authors.
Oh, yeah.
There's
There's bot
they'll-
farms all over this.
They'll game the hashtags, and they'll get really good at using social media essentially and TikTok, and then that inflates the popularity of their book, and then they can sell like 100,000 copies, and then once the book comes out, people realize none of the things that they were talking about are in the book, and it's not very good, and this and that and the other thing. There's a few examples that I don't remember the name of.
Something about this display right here where I'm watching the book things and they're like reanimating over and over, and I'm like, ah, and then the background's all on fire. I'm like, oh, okay, this fits.
Yeah, it is a dumpster fire. I think this fits. It tracks.
Where's bros
I mean-
at? There's all these ladies everywhere.
You gotta give them credit. They sell a few 100,000 copies on a one shot, and then they disappear and they come back as somebody else and do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The point I was getting at was I remembered one of them. It was her backstory was one of the things, and the things that the content she was creating. Like she'd come up with these quotes from her book, and then that like never happened in the book. And then her backstory, she had a tragic backstory. Like I come from nothing, and look at me blowing up on TikTok. I can do the thing, and then she did the thing, and people did their research, and comes to find out like. No, your family's rich. Like you actually come from everything.
Yeah.
So
Maybe is nothing a
Like
place.
that one New York Times reporter.
Nothing Iowa.
Yeah, nothing Ontario. I don't know.
Mhm.
I come
Oh,
from
yeah, it's-
nothing. Eh?
It's a lot of fraud. A lot of fraud.
Yeah, this is. I don't know. There's too much going on here. There's a lot to be looking at.
you're cracking me up over here. I burst out laughing when you said that.
Yeah,
I muted
it
it.
probably comes down to like author integrity too. Like it's no secret I'm an author. I want my legacy to be my books for my generations after me
Preach.
to celebrate. I don't want to have this one shot sell 100,000 copies and then I disappear. Like that's not a legacy. That's like it pays off a car or two. You know, it's not doing greatness for my
Right.
for eternity.
Your legacy is crap then, right? Because
Yeah.
they're inflated. Like
Also,
I'm specifically
legacy-
talking
yeah,
about
legacy's
inflated.
Forgotten. Like, they don't know who you
yeah.
are in 50 years, 100 years.
Okay, so that's an interesting thing. If you had to pick, you get to choose. You can do a booktube and you sell, I don't know, 20,000 books, but that's it, you're done. Or you can do the slow grind and maybe over your entire career or something, you end up at 18,000. Which route do you take?
Definitely yeah.
I'm taking the second one because I'm doing it already.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, I'm slowly climbing up the ladder and I'm learning where to grab that next handhold. And these
I have
things
a
are
counter
nice, but
question.
they're okay.
Bumble Jesus.
I do have a counter question to Evelyn, but finish your thought first, Boncher.
That was
Oh.
it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just laughing.
Oh,
at names.
okay. Am I a time traveler in this scenario? This between these choices, because if I have a path of guaranteed virality, right? Then
Yeah.
I can put an important message out, and I don't know, if I know ahead of time, I can make sure that book's as good as possible. And like
That's what I'm kind of getting
instead
at.
of
Like,
yeah,
Right.
is it
I'll
worth
throw-
trying to do this? Is it worth fishing in this pond, as it were?
Let's
Right.
throw out a counterfactual then. So, would you rather be successful in your lifetime only to vanish shortly after, or be like Vincent van Gogh and not sell anything until after you've died and become immortal with people worshiping your basically supping at the author or at the font of your knowledge?
Oh, the
or
first
like
one, for sure.
Lovecraft, or like a Lovecraft or Poe. Didn't this and or like there's that poet, that female poet. Who's that poet?
Virginia Woolf.
Well, I'm currently on the Van Gogh path, I think, in this scenario.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I wouldn't mind simply finding out that, I wouldn't mind die, go to heaven, and discover that my books lasted for 700 years.
Yeah.
Right,
Be like,
right.
Pilgrim's Progress or Beowulf. I'd love to find out that my books did that.
Even to expand on that, let's say like my series, I finished the series. I don't get rich off it, which is fine because you kind of see I'm kind of okay as it is. 1,000 years from now, when I'm in heaven with Jesus hanging out, hey, check out the movie of your books that got made 500 years after you died. Oh, neat,
For real. So yeah,
Man, did they screw it up?
that guy is not like that.
that is like the good question, though, because it's like, it just reminds me of the Tesla quote, right? I think he said, the present belongs to them, but the future for which I have seen belongs to me, or is mine. It has different variations of it, but he basically says like, yeah, my life is effed right now, and he knew it because like the government and everybody was after him. Basically, at the end, they're following him and spying on him and shit. The dude was just withering away in his later years. But anyway, he knew though what he had, like hundreds of patents, like of future technology, essentially, that he figured out and was kind of hoarding. And
He's not wrong.
Kinda.
I mean, we talk more about him than Edison anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the present. Yeah, so like if I could choose, I would definitely say I would want my stuff to last hundreds of years. Yeah, just like spend my life really grinding and focusing. Like, okay, I know this is gonna last. I know this is gonna last. I know this is gonna last.
And if you do it steady
Right,
enough, I feel, and my heart is my ultimate goal. Is like maybe not my children, maybe not my grandchildren, but maybe their children don't need to work as hard because of what I've created is producing something for them to live off of.
Exactly. And you know what I just thought? Like, then you wouldn't waste any time on any like side things that you need to do out of monetary posterity or just any sidetrack conveniences. You could literally just kind of focus on the goal, right? Like, if all of my work would be remembered, then it would make me choose what my topics are more wisely. Or if just my spirit animals work was going to be remembered, well, then I would just focus on spirit animals. Why even bother with anything else? Like, that's going to be what's remembered. So like, I'll go really hard on this and make it really good, kind of thing.
I will say one thing that's cool about BookTube here and all of this, and sort of hitting on that broader point, there's a lot here. Like, a lot of people are doing this. I like reading, I had thought was sort of on like the decline, or not a lot of people are into it, but this is, unless it's just for this solely, I mean, there's a ton of young people on here that are promoting books and that are writing books, reading books, and that's kind of cool. And something I'm saying with, it's like, oh, books are alive and well, and there is audiences out there that you do have that potential to reach and carry on and all that sort of stuff.
So you actually made a good point there, and you actually made me want to search comics.
So you could be like 2 videos?
Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of comics, but there's a thriving... there's a thriving and like, okay, check this out. This can be a format like Iron Age. Listen up. There's no sound because I have it muted, but
listen up with your eyes.
No, listen.
Yeah, it's a comic on TikTok. Like, people could do this. Like, you can do this, and TikTok is now it's edgy and dangerous to use it because it's banned. So
Not yet.
Yeah.
Probably will be.
And like Evely said, that last hashtag we were under, book talk, almost 32 million. Almost 32 million, right? This is cosplay. This is great.
That's
Can you imagine
yeah.
walking around all day knocking stuff over everywhere you go, bumping into an old lady? Ah!
That's why you do it with multiple people.
Exactly. So yeah, long story short, the long short of book talk. There's the same problems we see with all sorts of social media and stuff. But hold on, I continue. Oh no, my son was just he's a tricky one. So
So are we feeling net
you get
positive
inflated.
or net negative here?
I saw the solar opposites bag in there. That was funny.
I think it's a net positive.
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Oh.
How are you guys feeling? Are you a fan of it? Or are you with
You know,
Are you with
when I did my
you?
brief look into it to see what I can do to promote my works through here, Book Talk leans very heavily to LGBTQ, which my books don't attract to. I mean, it's fine. It's an audience. There's definitely a need for that, but there's definitely that heavy slant in TikTok.
Gotcha.
There is.
Pardon
And
me, AC
it
was-
doesn't exist in China. It does not exist in China, by the way.
No,
Yeah,
because it's a weapon.
Yep.
It's because
Yep.
TikTok's a weapon. It is aimed at their enemies to cause social chaos. So that's, of course, it's going to be aimed at your alphabet community primarily, and to cause disruption and
Even just
mental
looking at
illness.
this example here, you can see how heavily it leans in that
Yeah, I've
direction.
seen a lot of it. Yeah. AC, a part of me was hoping that you were going to be gone for like 20 minutes and just leave us with that giant cosplay guy walking on loop.
That was
I almost
the
just looked it up
Kingpin
for a
from
second.
Miles Morales, right? That was that.
Yeah,
that
it
was,
was that what that was?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, as you guys can see, I was just talking to JVP Music about this because he has Ruthless. Ruthless is a video comic that he has on YouTube. He's basically doing all the stuff that people check all the boxes and strive to do here on TikTok, but he's doing it naturally with his idea. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of trying to get him to like join TikTok and start paving the way with this, because I think there's something here. And anybody who has a comic, think about it. You could dedicate just a single issue to putting that on TikTok just for promotion reasons in a series of videos.
Like, would you say maybe do a page or two at a time as for the videos, or what are you recommending?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that.
Because I've got the.
Oh, sorry, my wife is.
comic, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's my thought. If you have multiple issues, like dedicating just like one issue, and then doing like just identify really good stopping points for about TikTok length videos. And TikTok's not just like 1 minute videos. There's like people on there that have like 10-minute long stories and shit. It's basically YouTube. It just skews towards short, flashy, hashtag blah 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 blah. Let's fucking go social media type shit. It's like Twitter. It's like if Twitter was like grounded with the idea of like YouTube instead of like text, right? Twitter's more text based. TikTok is like Twitter but for video. That's the way I look at it, with all the hashtags and how quick and snappy it is. But yeah, your comic videos could be any length essentially, and then boom, right into that booktube or book talk or like comic hashtag. I'm sure comics has like millions also. I didn't see what the number was. Oh, sorry, this is just looping. Holy, I saw Emily getting. Emily is just getting hypnotized.
I was like, I might be able to learn this.
I gotta find. Oh my god, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna actually just click out of that. So
Yeah.
I was gonna say I find some food, because sometimes one of the dirty tricks on TikTok is you get like really delicious food and you just have all this food being prepared and that's all the video is, and you have narrations of like conspiracies or whatever it is. So they're just like feeding you information of whatever the F they want, and you're just hypnotized watching like the texture of crazy things being cut slowly, and like this food looks delicious, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it
It's
cake?
fascinating.
One of those. That's a fun one too. They just like pick up a shoe and they bite it and it's made out of cake. Like, oh my god, that wasn't a shoe, that was cake. and they pick up like a hammer and they bite that, and then like a car tire, and it's just all cake.
It's all cake. It's all cake.
It's all cake. Everything. It's all cake. And then you start looking at stuff around the house. Like, do I have some around here? Is this cake? Try it.
So I know most of us are authors, but you're a musician, Everly. So was there a music tube?
I have no idea. I'm very bad at marketing and all these things. This is it. I'm like, I found people that like my work here, so that's fine. I've never really like pushed into the marketing that much. Maybe it's foolish, but I don't know. I have a small following, I guess, and I've always just made music for myself. Like if other people like it, that's just like gravy. But I don't know. I might maybe once I have more of a catalog start pushing, or like maybe whenever I'm like done, like okay, I've done all the music I'm gonna do. Maybe now I should start marketing it because there's no pressure to make new stuff. I can just be like, it's done, here it is, and then spend time doing it. I feel like making music is already really time intensive, and then having to think about marketing on top of that and how do I push in this. I'm just like, I feel like if you're not enjoying it on some level, it's hard to do it whenever it's kind of a hobby, I guess. So, but if you guys come across a music tube, definitely
Music tube.
let me know about
Music
it.
talk.
Music.
So yeah, book talk, an overall positive. Just like booktube, but like you do get like dramatic moments. I think what we're seeing is the side effect of social media, and we all got to navigate that anyway on a daily basis. But it should be made aware for the Iron Age. I think like right there, Comicsgate. Where are you at in the comic hashtag? Where are you at on book talk? You know what I mean? Like everybody is very hesitant to use it, which I do understand. But like Zuckerberg and Facebook already sold your information a long time ago. Twitter/X is selling it right now. Instagram, YouTube selling it. Google Chrome right now in the browser with StreamYard. It's all selling it. And now AI is here to help it.
Man.
I'm boring. Come to it to my house. Whatever.
I missed too much. I missed too much comment.
It's been a wild few minutes.
I'm guessing.
We went into book talk and music talk and all the talks and
yeah. So
toxic.
well,
Toxic.
we
Toxic.
yeah, that's the truth of it too.
the talkie, the hot and spicy, and the
like
This whole thing is big talkie. Just trying to
Like
get everybody.
So I
like
think everybody needs a bath after that dose of TikTok. I'll help it.
that's
I feel worse. Use Dragon Ball Z.
I know, right?
I'm sorry. I don't. That TikTok is the same. I have the same attitude towards TikTok, but with more vitriol than I do with TwitX. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm ignoring it with prejudice.
Apathy. Silent contempt.
Silent contempt is a great expression for it.
Mikazatsu, I think, is the term for it in Japanese. Mikazatsu, I believe, is the term for silent contempt. They have a word for silent contempt. I'm going to shun you.
Speaking of which, I had my mind blown when I found out that the Finnish have a word for wandering around aimlessly in the woods. And I'm like, okay, let's get some specific here, Farfignugan.
But yeah, anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up. So real quick, we will go around and we'll just kind of go straight down the line. How about that? Evely, you start, and then we'll go Boncher.
Hi, everybody. We're saying goodbye. I'm Evely Music. You can find my music on any streaming platform. I did 3 albums of like chiptune metal rock stuff, and then I did an album that was like 8 songs that was more death metal-y, and I've done music for a lot of people in our little circle here, including Mr. McCoppin right here, and I believe we're going to be working together again in the future. So doing all that, currently working on a song with Chill Kid 2. That's going to be cool, like a little double LP thingy, and we're getting some art for it that's going to be, hopefully it turns out awesome. It's like the Sega Genesis covers, and it's like me and him. We're going to be back to back in like 80s, and it should be good. So that's me. If you like metal, if you like chiptune, go give my stuff a spin. Or if you know somebody that does, tell them to go give it a spin. And I think that's about it.
Well said. Well said. And Evely Music in the chat has been just backing you up the whole time. He shut up the horns. You know,
Thanks,
What
Emily. I
a
appreciate it.
chill.
he's
What
like,
a
"Yup,
shill."
see, there, he said that. Yeah, backing me up. Boncher, where can they find you?
You can find my main outreach in www.resonantmedia.art. You can find all my media appearances. I'll link up to those there. I have also started launching music under the name Resonant One on Bandcamp. I have 2 songs now up, and many more to come. Plus stories being dropped on Substack, and you can also always find me on Amazon, Smashwords, Apple, Apple Store, Walmart, Books A Million, pretty much anywhere in the world. You can even order through your local favorite bookstore as long as they're connected with the Ingram Spark system. So, ta-da! My next appearance, or my next show and appearance, is going to be at Rise Up Con in Seaverville, Tennessee. That's Kevin Sorbo's new Faith and Family Fan Con. And so we're going to be vending there. And otherwise, after that, we'll be at the West Virginia Ren Fest for 2 weekends. And in between all of that, it is going to be at LibertyCon. Unfortunately, that's all sold out. So I'm going to be a guest there on panels and whatnot. So if you're on your way to LibertyCon this year, I'll see you there.
Hell yeah. And real quick, would you be interested in being a fill-in in future shows? Is this kind of a show that you liked? Yeah. I'm down to clown. Yeah, stay stay available, because I might get sick. Right now our other co-hosts, shout outs to Ultimate Kahuna and Battsauce, they're both in the air. One's on I feel like they're like on their way to their homelands. Both of them are like, one's like on his way to Italy and the other one's on his way to Hawaii. And I'm over here like, okay, I'll pilot the ship. Let's go. But yeah, real quick, Eric Wog says good night, and I have to. So if McCoppin, where can they find you?
Yeah, the paladinbooks.com has my my favorite series of all the series I write. Book 2's out in June. As Everly said, you might actually find some of his music on my site. You can listen to that. So yeah, that's long and short of it. Just pay attention for June for paladinbooks.com, and I'm excited about future releases. My other series, you guys shouldn't care about those. Those actually make money, so I don't advertise those.
Dude, that's actually a really cool thing about you. I remember pretty early on learning that. I'm like, oh, he doesn't. It's your nonfiction, right?
It sells. I don't ever advertise it, so I don't know why. I don't know why people buy this IT garbage.
You did something right.
People that are into IT garbage. Ta-da! Target market.
Target market. India loves my book. I sell an Indian book probably every other day.
Nice.
Very nice.
Abigail Grace too, right?
Based.
Abigail Grace doesn't sell for shit.
Oh,
I sold maybe
her
5 out of 6 of this one.
Well, at least you got nonfiction. I haven't hit that point yet. I don't know enough about nothing to write nonfiction about it.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend it. It sells like crazy. I've released a couple books over there, and they just keep selling. And my wife says write some more, but it's just hard to write because it's so boring. To be honest, like I like the fiction stuff because it's stories. I can tell the story. It's passionate about it. Nonfiction, it feels like homework.
You don't want to go to like
this thing. Like, oh,
India.
I'm writing a paper for college.
Right. Yeah.
It's all about having a goal.
Hey, look at it this way. It sounds like your nonfiction was like me when I was truck driving and I worked at a DC, being the yard dog there. It was like getting money for being in truck driving school. It's all backing.
No passion behind it, It's like, yeah.
You get pretty good though.
Thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Love to have you all back again in the future. What we're doing for guests is when we have like Everly, you got music. Like everybody has their thing. Like even McCoppin nonfiction, etc., etc. It's like
I got music, fiction, and art.
right. So when we need like an expert guest, right? That's kind of the route that we're going for as far as guests. Like with talking about Snyder, if like for some reason we knew somebody that like worked with Snyder or like his cousin or something, that would be a good guest. Or like a Snyder expert, right? Somebody who's like a huge fan, maybe. That's also from Iron Age. Or something. Yeah. So that's kind of the route we're going with guests in the future. But like, yeah. So it might not just be fill-in, is what I'm saying. If like there's some sort of like theme for an episode. But those listening can find me on Amazon, amazon.com/author/AC Pritchard, x.com/A_C_Pritchard, pritchardpub.substack.com, and for free content, acpritchard.substack.com. That's my spirit animal series, and that's the setting that won the first ever Pritchard Pub one-shot that we're going to live stream. So that means a bunch of cool Iron Age people are going to be running around with magical animals here for everybody to see, and I cannot wait because I'm kind of aiming for more like established players or people that I know for a fact will like, because we're going to need to keep a timely manner, right? I want to be like all within one stream, complete story, let's go. You know what I mean? So it almost has to pace like a movie. And I'm going to need to like be strategic about it. But I'm going to have fun. Thanks to everybody for watching, and thank you guys again for coming. Until next time.
Bye con Dios all.
It's time to step away from the pigs and the overlords that say that this is the way to do something. This is the way you must tell a story. This is the way that you must jump through our hoops in order to be recognized as legitimate. No.
You best start believing in ghost stories, Miss Turner. You're in one.
Me chest, lad. He'll be coming soon. Can't let him find this.
Who's coming?
The cyborg. Beware the cyborg.
What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
People say no. People say no these days. They see garbage like Halo, and they see what you could do, like Fallout, and they still say no, because it's not enough. It's too little too late.